Hi, Ruben from Roan Drum Channel. Welcome back for a new lesson all about Steve Gadd. My YouTube hero Rick Beato. He has an amazing interview with Steve Gadd. Check it out. I think you know it already. And he is listening to Aja again. It's always the Aja thing. First, I was always a little bit in conflict with the whole Aja story because everybody is talking about Aja. When you say Steve Gadd, everybody says, oh yeah, Aja. And I think Steve Gadd is much more than Aja. He has so many great recordings. That's why I had always a feeling a little bit against Aja. But now I can let it go and enjoy Aja because it's of course a marvelous drum track. I want to do some very interesting idea today of Aja. And I have also a video here about the whole background story of Aja. For me, the most important are two most important things. The first thing is that it was not his drum set, his own drum set. He had an other recording in LA and they asked, if you are here, can you take this drum part? And there were a lot of other drummers who played this part, but there was no drummer who could make the transition of a pop song into a very freaky jazz kind of solo and then go back to the pop song. And Steve Gadd is of course a master in jazz music and in pop music. So he was the crossover person who can nail this thing amazingly. And the second part for me is that he, and Steve Gadd I think thinks the same, is that on saxophone they later on put the magical Mr. Wayne Shorter on it. Now I have a quiz question for you. What's the other record where Wayne Shorter and Steve Gadd plays on together? That I think the most brilliant thing is he nailed it in 1 or 2 times with the score all over his studio. And you hear especially not the technical skills, everything, but the musicality is amazing. You hear what's the essence of a drummer is his musicality. Musical counterpart on the music. It's amazing. For me, the highlight of this song is the ending. Where you hear that space chords and you see Rick Beato also really freaking out there. And Steve Gadd is playing some very groovy thing underneath it. It's during the ending to the fade out. So if you want to break this pattern up, I will explain it to you. Sound-wise, it's very nice to know that it was not his own drum set. I think that's a little bit for sure because there was a guy in the comments of the Rick Beato interview who said I was the rental service for the Aja project and they asked for a orange Ludwig maple drum set, and he explains exactly what drum set it was. Only he had his own bass drum pedal, cymbals and snare drum. What I think maybe it was also the snare drum because he sounds deeper, like a deep superphonic. I have the small superphonic here, 5-inch, deep. And I think he sounds a little bit rocky, that he don't have the whole snare drum with the ring on it, but he just taped it a little bit to get rid of the overtones and he tuned it really high. So it is the Mozambique pattern. I don't know if you know the Mozambique. Here's the Mozambique pattern. And the nice thing about this pattern are the dynamics, you know. So he plays the accented notes, I think, with a rim shot, you know. And the taps he plays just on the snare. You can play it really stiff as a pattern, of course. And that's what always so strange with rhythm music is you only see the pattern written out, but in classical music scores you also see the whole musicality concept in it. That is never written out, but maybe there are some accents written in it, but the feel and the touch, nobody speaks about that, and that is so important. That's really a Steve Gadd secret. I get a lot of comments in my videos, and a lot of people ask me, how do you make that snare drum sound with the mics and which plugins and that kind of thing? But people forget that the secret of your snare drum sound is here. in your left hand. So the way you approach the snare drum is really important. You know, in piano, classical piano, you see that the touch is so important, how you make the sound. In drumming, it's the same. You know, you can play your snare on such different ways. You know, for me, the biggest difference between Rick Marotta and Steve Gadd, they have completely the opposite technique. So Rick Marotta is really a Bonham kind of drummer who really plays down. And the strange thing, if I see Steve Gadd playing nowadays, he's more playing also downwards. But in this time, like jazz drummers, he plays really up. So everything is really bouncing off the snare. So really short, really snappy, really short attack. And in the middle of the snare, of course, always, and you thinking up instead of down. You know, the upstroke? A lot of upstroke movement is in this instead of down. So the dynamics are really important. So you have to try to make this figure work out, you know. The accents can play on different places in the bar. So you can play a backbeat in it. Or you can emphasize the syncopation. So you can play the pattern in such different feels, and you see Steve Gadd always searching for a different feel, accent placing of this pattern. For me, it's so beautiful that he plays a Latin pattern out of the Afro-Cuban kind of music, the Mozambique. But when he plays a samba, the Brazilian style of drumming, he also plays the basic, this Mozambique pattern, but he replays his accents, so it fits perfectly in a samba. I think that is really so amazing. And he has a funk pattern, so he replaced his accents on different way that it gets to be a funk beat. In this pop record, he takes this Latin American, Afro-Cuban kind of rhythm and make it work in a pop record. And I think he didn't think of it at all. It's all coming out of his essence, not thinking, playing music. And that's the hardest part. But for you guys, I will explain it because everybody asks me, what is he doing at the end of Asia? So your right hand is still free. So when you want to play a samba, you can double the both hands. But to make it more poppy, he plays here a straight on 8 notes. With a couple of times he doubles it in the Mozambique, but most of the time this is just straight 8 notes. The coordination is very hard to do. So you have to play straight 8 notes. So the first 3 notes are together. And then there comes a double in the left hand. So you have to manage first this coordination thing. And then the bass drum plays mostly quarter notes, and sometimes he put in a 60-note funk thing in it, 2 notes together. But the basic is just quarter notes. And what he does a lot when he plays quarter notes with his bass drum, because he has this special bass drum technique, you can see that video over here. He plays everything out of his heel. And he does the same thing with both feet, playing the heels. And actually it's almost like he's putting his feet like this, you know. But really musically, though. So the basic idea is that coordination thing with the hands. And watch your physics. People, watch your physics. Tension, no way. You have to play it out of fully being relaxed. That is so important also. That's why he has this bass drum technique, because when you put your feet like this, your leg relaxes. It's relaxed. If you put it like heels up, you're always in tension with your bass drum leg. And it's both is okay. Yeah? I don't say the one is better than the other. But if you play like relaxation, you get that. It feels like you're playing behind the beat, but you don't play behind the beat. You play relax. And that is the trick, man. But with intention. Ooh, that's so hard. And now I loop the last part of the Mozambique, because that's a nice funk rhythm. And I hear that he does that sometimes also. The difficulty, I call that independence in dynamics, dynamically independent. You have your right feet. Your right feet is really playing forcefully on the bass drum, but forcefully like Steve Gadd. So heel technique, you know, relaxed, but it's loud. It's really important in the groove. But your right hand has to be a little bit softer, and that is so difficult. So it don't has to be like this. So you have to separate the right side of your limbs. And that is really hard. That is also coming out of the jazz music. So when you can play a little bit in the jazz music, you are used that your right hand is really loud, but your bassman foot is really soft. So that's why you get that independence. This is the other way around, but you have that kind of you need that kind of independence to make the Steve Gadd dynamics. So watch that dynamics, it's so important. And he plays it really like a koebel kind of thing, a koebel, that's Dutch, a koebel. A cowbell kind of thing on its, you know, on the cup of a cymbal. And now he plays straight A's. And for your left hand, it's really a hard exercise. You have a lot of endurance developed in your left hands to play it relaxed, but with impact. I still have problems with it when I want to play it traditional. The fastness that is needed to play this pattern relaxed. That's why I say always you have to practice your rudiments to a speed kind of thing, very fast. And you never have to show that. And that's the mastery of Steve Gadd. He never shows how fast he actually is in his left hand. It's amazing. But that's why he can play these complex rhythms with his left hand so relaxed because he has that endurance thing going on. And you can check that out. I have a very frustrating but nice motivating thing about it. I have a clinic of him where he plays the flam paradiddle, and for me the flam paradiddle is the hardest rudiment to play fast because you have always 3 hands after each other. And I can play that maybe fastest at 110 beats per minute. But he goes there, he starts slow and then he goes to a speed. He can play a flam paradiddle in this tempo. So it's not showing off, but you see, man, he has an endurance incredible. For me, my point of view is that's why his backbeat is so amazing. You need that endurance for such a controlled backbeat, you know, to play only a 2 and a 4. You can hear how somebody's endurance is. It's if he has a nice, good speed endurance in his left hand, the backbeat flows so much better. And it's always a style thing also, because there are amazing rock drummers. Ringo Starr has a right hand, I think, because he was left-handed. But I think his endurance is like this in his left hand. But he has a feel like a king, you know. So, you know, it's in the context. But if you want the secrets of Steve Gadd, I think that's just one of his big secrets. Try to get this slowly first. Well, I really enjoyed making this video. I hope it's a little bit helpful. Thanks to the great Rick Beato, the great Mr. Steve Gadd. Buy all his books and we see each other next time.